Yo, welcome to this video film review of Child's Play. There we go, Child's Play on VHS, currently running here on CRT TV. Back in the day when they actually made this film, that's the kind of television that we watched it on, and that is a VHS tape running right there, just for your viewing pleasure, I suppose. Now, one thing before I get this review started, let me introduce you to this guy, because I'm thinking the technology of Child's Play is not so far off, because here's this little good guy. Say hello. Yeah, tell them hello. Should we scratch your nose? Yeah. He does all kinds of things, says all kinds of things. This isn't a plug, this is just like... Yeah, I know. And then if I put him to sleep, look at this. He goes to sleep. Anyway, let's get away with you for a second. But I was just thinking... Anyway, whatever, you get the idea. Hopefully no one's going to climb into his body in a case of possession. Now, I wanted to talk about Child's Play. Partly because I just rewatched it. Now, there's a bunch of separate little stories I can tell you about Child's Play, and we'll get to them later. But let's just jump into the actual review. So, Child's Play is directed by Tom Holland, who also did Fright Night, okay? And the interesting thing is it's written by Don Mancini. And I had an interesting circumstance because I met a guy this evening who met or knew Don Mancini. And this guy told me that the writer of Child's Play, certainly the guy who did the story for the film, said that Child's Play had more layers than just an entertaining 80s horror movie. And I want to talk about the writing, and I want to talk about predominantly the directing. Because what the story creator said is that it was kind of a metaphor for consumerism. And there was a fear at the time, or a lot of discussion anyway, about how 1980s cartoons and 1980s toys for children, which were usually synonymous with children's cartoons like Transformers and Ninja Turtles and Inspector Gadget, right? The list goes on almost forever. How that was affecting children, and how it was essentially almost taking precedence over the parents' influence and taking precedence over the school's influence. And I mean, I've got a friend who said when Ninja Turtles came out, he went literally into the sewers looking for the turtles, you know, had that kind of an influence on children. And just realizing how dark this screen is. But anyway, the interesting thing about that as a concept is how well directed this film actually is. Now, I first saw Child's Play when I was a similar age to the kid who stars in it. And I actually grew to, though I loved the film the first time, I grew to love it more and more and more the older I got. I suppose you could say it's not really a children's film, so maybe I shouldn't have seen it as a child. But it is a very, very, very well made film. And one thing about it that's so interesting is I really praise the directing. And I've said this, I've mentioned Child's Play in other videos actually, because what Tom Holland does so well in this film is he takes it so completely seriously. Now, in so many of the follow-ups and the sequels, Child's Play becomes kind of farcical. It's like, oh, this is such a stupid film. It's about a doll, right? Ha, 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 let's laugh at it and let's stick a bunch of jokes in it. Now, that doesn't mean I dislike the sequels, because I do like the sequels. But horror films in general, and films that imitate this one, don't seem to understand that the meticulousness of his directing of this film is that he 100% treats the script like it's real and it's not to be made fun of. I mean, the film is 90 minutes long and there's not one joke in it, you know. Now, people retrospectively laugh at it and make jokes about it and go, I hate that doll. I'd just kick that thing across the room. Why is it so difficult to get rid of it? You know, they laugh at it. But when you watch the film, it is 100% serious. And it's essential to make it serious because it's so utterly ridiculous, right? The idea of this doll running after people is kind of a ridiculous concept. And if you direct it any other way, it doesn't have the magic, and it certainly doesn't have the horror which the film actually manages to get across, okay? And that's a big thing, because it shows a huge amount of confidence on the part of the director to say, I'm going to make a film about a doll and I'm not going to have a single joke. There is no room for I'll remove the tension with a bit of humor. Nobody's going to go, oh shit, right before like they die, so the audience can go, ha, and then it like relieves the tension. The other thing about the script and the direction, because Tom Holland did have a hand in the script as well, as did someone else who I forget. We can credit him after maybe. So three worked on the script, but it was Mancini's story. But I love the fact that in this movie, it's not a generic like who's going to die first. I mean, spoilers here, but if you've seen this movie, you'll know that the cop and the mother and the kid all make it to the end. And if this was done today as a completely like new story but a Child's Play ripoff, you can be pretty damn sure that they'd introduce like the cop and the cop's assistant, the other cop, and the guy who works in the children's hospital, and it would be kind of a one by one, they'd all die, and then at the end, the kid and the mother would probably survive. But this movie doesn't do that. The script is better than that. It establishes the horror here, right? As we just seen, the very first woman who goes out the window. But it's not from then on, oh, and then this person's going to die, this person's going to die. It's like, no, there's an actual story happening here. And it unravels really, really well. Now, I want to talk about this scene that just happened, which is that I feel like one aspect of Child's Play has consistently been damaged by its phenomenon, essentially. The phenomenon being what a phenomenal success it was. And what's interesting about it is I watched it and I'd never really thought to myself that, to give you some context, the first time I saw Child's Play, it was kind of a big thing. My brother loved it, his friends loved it, other kids I knew talked about it, and I'll tell you the story later, but there was a Child's Play doll which our friend had. So I knew about Chucky and I knew about the whole sort of mythos of that character. But if you watch this film for the first time without knowing any of that, Tom Holland directs it in such a way that you actually could assume that that the boy is actually the villain in the film. You don't know in that opening scene for sure that the doll actually is the reason that woman went out that window. And at the beginning of the story, when the cop comes in, the cop is checking the little boy's shoes and the mother's getting angry. And he's obviously, as a rational human being, the cop is thinking, well, the only person in this apartment was the little boy, and that woman is now dead. So he's not suspecting it to be a doll. And a rational audience member wouldn't suspect it to be the doll either, because of how seriously the film is directed. So I kind of feel like sometimes trailers and word of mouth ruins some aspects of some films, because if you went in completely blind, it would be quite interesting as a viewer to think, well, it can't be the doll. You wouldn't even think that. You just think, oh, it's probably the kid. And it's called Child's Play. So it's not the title of the film is not a giveaway, because he is a child, and maybe it's like, oh, this child is someone responsible for, maybe he's sadistic and psychopathic, right? So that twist that it turns out to be the doll is given away by advertising and stuff. But I bet someone saw this thing on TV late night, didn't know what it was, and got that experience. Another example of that happening is The Sixth Sense. The Sixth Sense, though I don't think it's the best of M. Night Shyamalan's films, but The Sixth Sense, I won't give away the ending, but in the film, the kid Haley Joel Osment says, "I see dead people," right? And And that comes quite late in the film. That comes like maybe 40 minutes or even an hour into the film. He says, "I see dead people." And that's actually supposed to be a twist that you don't know for certain what this child's problem is. But the trailers gave that away. And the "I see dead people" became iconic, and it was in spoofs and parodies and imitators. Not imitators, but spoofs and parodies. So everyone knew he saw dead people before they went into the cinema. And so that kind of is another example of sometimes it's being ruined. But you can tell that this film was directed in such a way where the director was like, I want you to think it might be the boy, and then I have to direct it so well that when you find out it's the doll, you actually believe that and you don't laugh about it. So a lot of props to that. Now, in terms of some of the ways he directed that script, it's really interesting that this is a mother and her son, the main characters, and there's no father. And in terms of Mancini's script being kind of a nod to the fact that consumerism and toys were essentially the third parent, or sometimes the second parent, and sometimes even the first parent. And what does it mean when a child idolizes and adores what they see on television? The influence is immense, because a children's favorite cartoon character could tell a child to do something, and the child will probably, not always, but they'll be inclined to do it, or to want to do it to please their favorite character, right? If there'd been an Optimus Prime toy that spoke to the child, and the Optimus Prime toy gave the child somewhat morbid instructions, the child would probably do what their favorite character tells them to do, because the child is so heavily influenced by loving this for months or years of their young life, right? You love something for 6 months as a child, that's like a quarter of your whole life. So it's for a child, it's a big part of everything that they know. But in this story, like, the boy doesn't have a father, and there's interesting placement of the boy has a photograph next to his bed, which we imagine, if you look, it's never pointed at, but it's there, we imagine is the father, who's not there. And then there's one scene where the boy says, Chucky tells me that Chucky the doll says he comes from heaven because of dad not being here. But even the direction of the certain sequence is that the boy is sitting on the floor, Chucky is sitting on a chair, and then the photograph of the boy's father, who's non-existent, is above Chucky. And it's almost like, here's the replacement, here's the father replacement, this toy. And the extension of the toy is the TV. And at the beginning of the film, the boy is literally watching the cartoon show of the Chucky good guy doll. This is actually the scene. There he is, he's in the chair. And if I can get to it, I've actually got a problem with this video machine, so I'm not. The thing, I can't stop it and play it. I have to eject the tape and it plays itself. That's how old it is. But either way, the good guy doll is there, and then the photograph is on top. And it's kind of again, I think the writer it's very subliminal. It's not on the nose, but he's essentially saying this is a father replacement, and he's kind of making a nod to the fact that television and cartoons and toys are in a way replacing the parents. And what does that mean for a culture when children are getting more indoctrinated and influenced by essentially a culture of consumerism? Now, I love the 80s cartoons. I'm a big fan of that stuff, and I don't think it was necessarily a negative influence, but I do think there are negative influences that I think we're still seeing today. A sort of unwillingness to grow up, let's say, because kids were surrounded by so much light and colour and happiness, and it's a different subject, but it's certainly a relevant one. And well, that's that's me riffing on Child's Play, but I do think those two things, like the metaphor, the relevance, and the direction, are certainly worth discussing. I will say one irony though, which is that for a screenplay which was about, is this stuff a bad influence on kids, kids loved this film. I saw it as a kid and I loved it. Like I said, it grew on me more. I didn't love it as much as a kid as I love it now, but I still thought it was great. And I think it's quite funny because the writer was almost trying to make a social comment, and yet I don't think there was anything that was like a worse influence for kids than this. So he might be saying like, oh, look at how bad this stuff could be. I mean, imagine what they could put into the mouth of the doll that they sell to your kid, and you as a parent might not even know what that doll is saying. But if a kid's watching Inspector Gadget, that's that's not so bad an influence as a kid watching this. And any kid who watched this, no kid came out of the cinema or on videotape, no kid came out imitating Andy, the 6-year-old. All the kids came out imitating Chucky, right? They all walked out being like, fuck you, you fucking slut, don't fuck. Ah. You know, that's the character that people gravitated to, is the evil psychopathic doll. Give me the power, I beg of you. You know, we were literally saying that stuff in the playground. So it's kind of ironic. It's like he the writer, defeated his own intention to a degree, but I do think you have to credit it for, like, there's a reason it permeated the culture. It's a very small film. It's a low budget film. Tom Holland was not, like, he only really did Fright Night and this, so he wasn't Spielberg, you know. This wasn't Poltergeist. This was relatively small, and yet to this day it's still discussed. So obviously there's something in it that's really working. Now I thought I'd tell you kind of an interesting story about, well, when I first saw Child's Play, is my brother's, well, he was a friend of mine. He was a family friend, but he was my brother's closest friend, and he had the Chucky doll. He had the Child's Play doll, and he actually left the country, which was really sad for all of us because we were only children, and this is my brother's best friend leaving the country, and at like 10 years old or something, and he gave my brother that Chucky doll, right? So it was a slightly scarier one, but it was very accurate to that. And the first time I saw the movie, I wasn't that scared by it. I was only about maybe 8. And I was actually, this sounds strange, but for anyone who doesn't know, I grew up kind of behind the scenes of theatre, right? I used to watch theatre, like, from the wings and stuff. So I was watching a lot of actors and things, and I loved movies and stuff. And as a kid, I actually watched the film, and I was paying attention to him, Andy, and I was watching his performance, and I was a similar age, so I was actually watching it going, I wonder if I could do a performance like that. And as an adult, it's funny because I watch it and go, he gives such a good performance. What a great performance. What an idiot I was. But as a child, I don't think you look at children as a protector, but as an adult, you look at children as a protector. You can't help but want to protect and look after a child. So you definitely see a film like this through different eyes the more you grow up. But anyway, I wasn't that scared by it. I was watching it kind of like, I was sort of seeing the direction and things, even at 8. But I went to sleep, and my brother put that damn doll in my bed, right? And he put it on the pillow next to me, and it was a big doll, okay? And I woke up in the night, and there was not that much light in the room. A little bit was kind of coming through a window, and it was 90% dark. And next to me is this damn Chucky doll, which made me scream. I was like, ah! So I kind of, it was almost like the joke was on me, because I said to him, it wasn't that scary. And he's like, oh, whatever, you know. And then I went to sleep, and I sure as hell woke up with a legitimate fright, which woke everyone up. Because my mum was like, what's that? She came in the room. Ah! That's my review of Child's Play. I think it's really, really excellent. It's quite a special film. But be careful with it, because movies about curses, you know, throw some holy water on yourself before you watch that one. Anyway, I'm going to give a quick plug here to a book that I've been working on. These are test prints. You see there, it says not for resale. This is a book. This is my first ever hardback book. For people who don't know, I write novels. I make films. I've won some awards for short films, and this is a comic book that this is my first ever comic book, which I did with the artist Day Slight. He drew all of it. You know, we worked on it all together, and I'm so flattered that he didn't change a single word of my script. He kept it exactly as I wrote it, which is the best you can ever ask for. So I'm super proud of that. That was a real collaboration, and more of them to come. And I'm trying to work out how to get these to you guys, because I've been selling them. Some shops have taken them, but mailing them out is a different thing. But this is coming to Amazon very soon, and this is my very first hardback, and this is a children's book, which has been eating up too long, close to a year of my life, and I'm really, really proud of it. I literally got this hardback today, okay, and I'm kind of, I think it's beautiful. It's all working out really well, and I had another really wonderful artist doing images for it. There's images like that, and then the can you see that? Those sorts of images throughout. So I'm really, really proud of this book, and I'm really looking forward to it being available, and it will be available. And I think I'm going to give you a few covers to choose from, but you pick the one that you want best. But anyway, that is called We're Going to Qatar. That's a children's novel, and we're going to Qatar for the 2022 World Cup, and I'm very proud of the story. It actually means a lot to me. It's not like, you know what I mean? I'm not, everything I write means something to me. Otherwise, if it doesn't, I wouldn't be able to write it. But anyway, that's coming soon. Phase 2, the comic book, is available now. Maybe if you write to me, I'll send it to you. Signed, of course. And that's my review of Child's Play. So take care, you guys, and be well.